Welcome back to the Beyond the Blueprint podcast, powered by Lapolis Electric. I'm your host, Steven Marcelino, Vice President of Sales with Lapolis Electric. And this week we have a special episode. We're shooting in Marco Island, Florida at the TEG Principal and Diamond Award event. With me today, I have Audrey Kroon Lowther, owner of Kroon Electric from Canada. Audrey, thank you for coming on today.
My pleasure, Steven.
And before we get into the episode, I just want to congratulate you guys again for winning Contractor of the Year this year. That is a great accolade to be able to say you've achieved, in our franchise. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Contractor of the Year award and what it took for you guys to achieve that?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm pleased to say it's our third time winning, but it gets harder and harder to win every time you win because you have to keep doubling your maintenance base. We'll talk a little bit about that this afternoon. So the past 5 years after post-COVID, we had to change the way we go to market. And by doing so, that actually allowed us to become Contractor of the Year because we became laser focused. We changed the way, like I mentioned, how we go to market, and everyone was all hands on deck at Kroon. And we grew our maintenance base from 2019, we were at 9 million, to last year we were just shy of 22 million in sales in 5 years.
Numbers.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what the inside of that office looked like getting to 22 million. It must have looked like a Wall Street trading floor.
It was pretty exciting. It's exciting. And we're still growing, so.
And that's it. I think that's the common thread, for the contractors that look at the model the way Kroon does, Lapolis, and the other members of the franchise. We're always looking to grow, and we're constantly looking to strategize on how we exactly do that.
Yeah.
And that'll lead into my biggest question of the day, I think. How do you lead a successful sales team? Not only just to grow, but for the day-to-day grind for what it takes to sell the TEG product?
That's a great question. I think the biggest change at Kroon is getting everyone from the accountant to the salesperson, the sales rep, to the technical, to our electricians, everyone 100% is on board on how we go to market. And the reason with that is every time there's a phone call at Kroon, everyone understands the ultimate goal is customer service. So for every person, as soon as they're hired at Kroon on the onboarding process, they actually have to sit on a sales call and they learn what we do at Kroon, and from there, the rest all comes together. So how do I manage a successful sales team is keep educating them, but I keep educating myself as well. To be the best of the best, you can't remain status quo. You have to think outside of the box, and that's what we're continuously doing. Meet great people like you. In our industry, in the TEG world, have conversations, get ideas from everyone, and from there we grow. Yeah. We regularly have meetings. Every Monday morning we have meetings. We call them performance activity review, but I found that word a little bit harsh. We change it for us. It's like we table anyone that has a challenge that week. We celebrate every success, and that could be just booking an exploratory call, an e-call with a prospect, whatever that might be. We're having conversations rather than me being a dictator and I'm the sales manager. I see myself as a coach. I played sports my whole life. Yep. So basically I'm running my entire company as if it's a big game. And
very interesting.
And we are competing and we're going to win.
And that's really important, I think, when you're in a sales leadership role, to mentor. Mentorship is what's going to grow a team, because a lot of the time when we get a new rep, they might not have any idea about what we're selling. They might be natural-born businessmen or businesswomen, but they might not know exactly about the TEG product and the sales process that needs to be implemented to actually lock down a sale in TEG, because the sales cycle for us, as you know, it's a pretty long sales cycle. We're not selling bottled water to people. We're selling a highly technical service, and we're asking people, can we encroach on your electrical infrastructure, the heart, so to speak, of your operation for whatever the vertical market is that we're in, and, can we work on that? That's really what we're asking people to do, and to sell that service to somebody, especially if it's based on a cold opportunity, it's a very it's a very hard ask in the beginning, and our approach to these prospects or to our evergreen clients that offer us recurring business is extremely important, you know, and the customer service side of it, and that's been a common thread throughout all my conversations today. We're all hyper-focused on customer service, making people feel comfortable with Stephen Marcelino, with Audrey Kroon, with Audrey Lowther. I apologize on.
That's okay. That's my married name, and that's my child name, so all good.
Butchering your last name, you know, or dealing with a Buster Kirkland or, you know, Louise, whoever it is. We want our clients to feel comfortable with us as people, and then from there, you know, the technicality files, you know, files in place.
Yeah, for sure. So that's a great point you're bringing forward is we sell a non-tangible, right? What we're selling is not visual. It's not sexy. It's not a product.
No.
So how do you make it sexy, and how do you make it a return on investment for the client? So a couple of things that we did that we changed in the past 5 years. Every time we have a new sales rep that joins the team, they are shadowed. They shadow a senior rep for 1 year. Until they prove him, they can actually have that conversation. And you know, it's such a rapid world today, and it's so hard to get a new prospect. And when you do that, you have one chance to either do it well or you could fail. So that's one way we changed. Our new sales reps are shadowed for 1 year. And the nice part, they learn quicker in their education and what we're doing, et cetera, but also shows to our client that we're willing to invest in our people. In the olden days, and I guess in 2002, when we joined the TAG network, it was very different the way they went to market. It was like, okay, the sales rep comes, it goes through 6 week onboarding, and then they're left on their own.
Yeah.
So we had a continual rotating door, you know, sales reps coming in, sales reps going out. So we had to change that. So now the fact that we're working collaboratively, we have the new sales reps join, and now they're shadowed. They're not alone on their island. And it's been extremely successful. We've not had any turnover in the past 5 years, and that's how we're getting that growth that we need. And a little comment made about our clients. So the way we communicate with our clients is about educating them, right? And the exciting thing that happened the past few years is the NFPA 70B and 70E has changed. 70B last year became a standard. I know if some of the audience are familiar with that standard or not, but they should be, especially if you're a facility manager and whatnot. So we took the standard and we put in these 6 steps. And if our clients have these 6 steps in place, lo and behold, they're complying to the standard. I don't know if you want to go through that today, but that's something definitely we could communicate.
Unpack that a little bit.
Let's go. Let's go for it.
Go for
So I mentioned when COVID hit, what we do, we sell a non-tangible, not sexy, but we had to find something to educate our clients with, right? So we took the standard, the NFPA 70E, in Canada it's called the CSA Z462. We put in 6 steps. If our clients have these 6 steps in place, they conform to the standard. So the first step that our clients need to do, you got to make sure that you have an electrical safety program. What does that mean? You have to make sure as an employer you have safety, health and safety policies, one for your employees, but the others would be for all vendors that come and work on your site. You got to make sure that they are also compliant to the standard. The NFPA 70E and the CSA Z462 was never written just for electricians. It's anyone that interacts with electrical equipment. That can be your HVAC technicians, your fire alarm technicians. Everyone interacts with electrical equipment, so everyone has to follow the standard. The second step to be compliant, we have to train and qualify employees. So we got to make sure that people that interact with electrical equipment, they're actually trained and know how to do that safely, right? There's 2 types of training, Stephen. Every 3 years, there's the theoretical training that is required. Why every 3 years? Every 3 years, the standard is rewritten, right?
Yep, refreshers.
And then there's annual training that is required now, which is quite nice for us because that becomes a recurring revenue, if you will. You have annual training as a lockout, takeout training and contact release training. So that's a second step. The third step to be compliant, we got to make sure we have updated single line diagrams. So behind the blueprint, well, one, you have to create the blueprint, right? And that's what we do. As you know, you guys do that successfully as well. That has to be reviewed at maximum every 5 years, or if a substantial change was done prior to 5 years, we'd have to do that sooner. And then finally, the fourth step to be compliant. All piece of electrical equipment in the States is 50 volts, but in Canada it's 30 volts and above. We need to have a detailed arc flash label. What that label teaches us, Stephen, as you know, we'll tell the audience, teaches us the PPE we need to wear, the arc flash boundary, et cetera. It protects the worker. How do we work safely, right? And then with the fifth step, you have a question on that? Go ahead.
Not only it protects the worker, but the other side too, God forbid there is an incident, if the owner or owner's representative does not have that label on the piece of equipment, they're going to be liable for whatever that injury to the worker or whoever may have entered that enclosure was, based on not having the proper safety labeling on the equipment.
Exactly. And
wanted to throw that
exactly, that's doing our due diligence as an ownership group, right? How do we mitigate our risk? That's one way of doing that. Put that label on the equipment. The fifth step, obviously, we have to give our employees personal protective equipment that is arc flash rated and shock protection as well. And the sixth steps that I'm sure you've been talking a lot on a lot of your podcasts, which is fantastic. We have to maintain systems as per the NFPA 70B. In Canada, that's considered the CSA Z463.
Yep.
So as you know, the difference between 70E teaches us how to work safely on equipment. 70B teaches us the maintenance that is required in every electrical asset.
Yes.
And basically at Kroon, that's our core mission, is maintain electrical assets. We know that electrical components, if properly maintained, should last 25 to 30 years. If not, that drops to 17 years. So it's our job, Lepolis, Kroon, we've got to maintain these assets, right?
And that's the unique thing about sales, so to speak, in our industry. We're not really selling. We're consulting facilities managers or, chief operating officers, whoever's in charge of running the operation, on how to properly manage their electrical infrastructure by developing preventative maintenance and or safety programs to operate their facility. We're not coming in and doing, the one-off services of, can we come and just test a cable or just do this? That's not our model. We're looking to come in and help create a workplace free of electrical hazard for those operating the facility. And that's what really separates us from the other competitors out there.
Absolutely. And even our TAG world, when we joined the TAG network in 2002, like I mentioned, we changed the way we go to market. And COVID hits, we have to now, this is a conversation we're having in person, but we can go see people. So what do you do? Well, we became a virtual world. And we had to adopt that, right? And it was not natural. I mean, I'm an electrician by trade, did my first service call at the age of 7. Now I'm trying to use the computer and starting to do these PowerPoint presentations. But by doing that, we really streamlined our message. And we're really educating. It's like you're saying, we're consultants now. We're not salespeople. We're educating the client what the needs are. And we actually streamline our whole sales process. We don't even start talking about dollars and cents or anything till probably the 5th visit, till we actually learn what the client needs. We're not putting our agenda. I felt that in the past it was more like that. We're going to set our agenda. We're going to tell people what they need. Now it's the reverse. We're going to listen to what the client wants and what the client needs once we go visit. And we educate them every step of the way. So we really changed the way we went to market.
I'm actually going to dovetail that comment into another question that I have here. What is sales engineering to you, and how does that differ from a traditional sales role?
Well, I think it's a little bit what I'm just mentioned is the way we educate ourselves and we educate the client. So we have the exploratory call, which I find is the hardest role as a sales rep, is to actually book a client with a new prospect, someone that's not working at Kroon. That's why we celebrate every single prospect that we book into an e-call. We celebrate that at Kroon.
Very hard to get prospects.
As much as a sale, right? That's so important. So the engineering part, I guess, is follow the steps. You don't take shortcuts. At Kroon, you are not allowed to give a proposal to a client if we never presented our services to them. You're not allowed. We changed that 5 years ago. So if a client calls and they need a quote, before we give them the proposal, we're going to present our services. And the reason why we do that, we learned the hard way that we lost revenues by not educating our clients. Like you guys, we have a lot of clients over the years and they grow and grow, but our services also changed. But we never took the time to educate our clients about these changes. So a couple weeks ago, we have a client that we do a lot of engineering as well, Stephen, that needed an arc flash study and a short circuit study. These may be too technical terms, but these are services we provide. Yeah, and our client gave it to our competitor. Why? They didn't know we were actually offering those services. So that was a very big lesson. At Kroon, it's a reminder to everyone, we do not give a proposal out to a client without presenting our services, because you're leaving opportunities on the table, but also you're doing a disservice to your client by not educating them, right?
And that's the big thing, being a part of the TEG franchise, you know, all of our partners and you know, Kroon and Polis, we're not just testing companies, we're full service contractors. So everything from installing a panel on the wall, putting up a light fixture, you know, for Lapolis, building a ground up tower in New York City, doing a residential service call. You know, we have residential capabilities as well that our residential service department does an impeccable job with, you know, the residential jobs that they perform. Clients aren't aware that we have this full gambit of capabilities, like you're saying, unless we tell them. And if we don't tell them, it could hinder not only on the revenue side, but how we can best help our customers. You know, because instead of somebody calling for a testing quote or an engineering quote and just, you know, us sending it to them, yeah, sure, we could do that all day, but I agree 100%. When we onboard a prospect, it's a standard that they're fully aware of every single service that Lapolis Electric has to offer. Like, as we speak, I have a client that manages a tower in New York City, but he wants to upgrade his panel in his house to a 200 amp panel. And he's asking me to help him with that. Now, if he wasn't aware of our capabilities, he wouldn't know to ask me that, because he would look at us just as a powerhouse commercial contractor that does testing.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, so it's extremely important, whether it's for arc flash studies or medium voltage work or a residential service call or doing an office fit out for a building in a city. Kroon, Lapolis, whoever it is in the TEG franchise, we can do it all for people.
Yeah. So another way we improved also in the past 5 years, and what brought us to be Contractor of the Year in 2023, is the whole sales cycle. Is not just sales, but it's also the operational side of it. It's one thing, you know how hard it is to bring in a new client, but then keeping that client, et cetera. But every sale is so important. But if we're business development people, we got to focus on sales and trust that the operations is going to do their job. So when we put that line in the sand at Kroon, we saw increase not only in revenue, but in customer service as well. Because the salespeople often were getting involved with the operational side, but that's not their job, right? They have to go keep educating clients and get more pull-through work, whatnot. And however, on the operational side, every time now we return a report, it could be an engineering report, energized maintenance report, anything we're doing, the maintenance sales rep is always included in the delivery of the report, because it's now, we're working as a team rather than have these silos where sales is alone, operations alone. And when we started changing that, our sales cycle, and I don't know if that answered your question about the engineering, but we really re-engineered our entire model at Kroon, right?
It's important, you know, and that goes back to your comment you made earlier that, you know, having that sports team mentality. You know, a lot of times when Carmine is interviewing somebody, he asks them, did you play sports growing up? You know, sure, I'm asking, you know, he may be asking because he's curious to know if they played sports, but he's really asking because he wants to know, can you work with a team? Can you work on a team? And are you willing to work for a team? Yeah. You know, because that's what we are. You know, at Lapolis Electric, it's not just me doing my thing, Valentina doing her thing, Brian Feeney doing his thing, Gary Mancini doing his thing, you know, Giuseppe doing his thing. You know, we have to work together. Otherwise, this does not work. You know, it's extremely important, and it's something myself I'm learning to accept as, you know, the business model, so to speak, because we're always moving at 1,000 miles an hour, and you know, we all want to get things done for our clients, you know, and we have to trust in each other that we're all professionals and we do what we do, and everyone's good at what they do, what their function is to Lapolis Electric, and that's extremely important. You know, we have a nice sized team at Lapolis, and we're fortunate. You know, we're very grateful to have the team that we have, you know, and it's very important to rely on each other for our own expertise.
For sure. The motto at Kroon, I've got your back. That's it. Everyone, we have each other's back. And as a sales leader in your role as well, something that I learned the hard way, I guess, or I learned over the years is trust your sales team, man. Trust that they're going to do just as good as you would do, right? Yeah. Keep educating them and become the coach. The success for me when that change happened about 5 years ago, and really worked on it, is I'm picking the coaches that I see in our group, and now they're becoming the leaders. So they're able to do everything that you and I do, right?
Yeah.
And that's success. Because then you're no longer the person that needs to be there, and now you're really going to be focusing on a team, building a team, rather than, I appreciate taking the calls from clients. My clients know if there's going to be fire, they'll call me, but it's nice when they know they could call someone from Kroon, and it does not have to be me or you.
Yeah.
That your team's got your back, right? So
100%.
that's about this team spirit that we're building at Kroon, and that's been the success for us.
It's extremely important. So let me ask you, kind of shifting focus. I know we touched on it a little bit, but how important is volume when developing a prospect pipeline?
I think that's something, it has to be continuous. You always have to have people tend to like to be the farmers, but you need hunters, man, always. So as you're building your sales team and you're growing tremendously at Lapolis, we can't forget that we always have to bring in new customers, because that's where the growth is. We sell recurring revenues, we sell maintenance agreements, so we got to make sure people keep knocking on that door to keep bringing in new clients.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the success and the growth that we need. So it's very important to have a huge prospect list.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. At all times, I created something called an MQL spreadsheet for the sales team at Lapolis, and it's more or less, it's just a fancy way to say a prospecting sheet, but it's market qualified lead sheet. So before the MQL converts into a SQL, a sales qualified lead, we track every single opportunity that we have, and the two reps that are working on that right now, Giuseppe and Navpreet, they both, between the two of them, have about, at all times, 700 to 800 prospects on their MQLs between the two of them. And they're constantly doing research every day, and they do a great job. I tell them, you guys are you're like spies, the way they're like the CIA. They sit there and they use the softwares we have, and they just go to work and they develop these sheets. And we color code our MQL red, yellow, green. Red being there was either no contact made or we're not getting an answer on the phone. Yellow is they've answered the phone and they've requested information for us, potential for a meeting. And green, we've done an IS2 or we've had some type of site interaction with them or got a cup of coffee with them and they're extremely interested in buying. And then from green, they then move to our sales qualified lead sheet where we've actually walked the facility and gotten a verification meeting or a proposal out to them. And that's kind of like the cycle that we've been following, and it's keeping things organized and it's creating a recipe for success.
For sure, that's great.
And like you said, it's extremely important, because it's funny. People think it's easy to get prospects. It's actually easier once we have the prospect to close a sale.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have experience with that because once you have a prospect, they have some sort of interest in buying something. 9 times out of 10, once we lock a prospect in, it's because they're interested in something we've discussed with them over the phone or through the IS2.
Yeah, typically, they have a need, right? And if you could figure out what that need is and what the pain point is for that customer, I agree with you. There's no reason why you can't bring in revenue and get some sort of business from them, for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
And in what we do, I think at all times you have to have at least 100 fresh prospects ready to knock on the door or pick up the phone and talk to them. And another major thing I think that alleviates some pressure on the prospecting side, it's something that you guys do a great job in as well, is the digital marketing. Digital marketing in today's age is so important. We're on a podcast right now talking about awareness to our business and our sales processes and our services to educate people that may not know about what we do, but actually need our services. Utilizing LinkedIn to put out fresh content, or whatever the social media platform is that you market your company on, whether it's ads, Google ads, having a killer website. In today's age, as it's extremely important.
Absolutely, and also respecting clients' time. I think our message when we get out there has to be very precise.
It does.
And people, like you said, everything's moving so quickly. So to refine that message in a very short virtual meeting, if you will, actually that's what COVID did as well. All our meetings are virtually now. And every single virtual meeting that we host, we actually plant 10 trees. It's something we started at Kroon about
nice.
5 years ago. And when it's reducing our carbon footprint, we're also, helping the environment. As a business owner, it also reduces our gas consumption, the risk for technicians, or I should say our salespeople going on the road. As you're driving around, there's risks. So all these elements actually, helped our carbon footprint, but it was a win-win-win for everyone, right?
That's a great initiative.
Yeah.
That you guys set forth.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was that much thought that went into the reason you guys went virtual. That's, you gave back not only to the environment, but, you kind of redefined the way that you were able to approach, your sales cycle as well, and almost, give back to your community, your environment, and your employees too.
Well, being a sales coach, imagine how much time you just saved if you don't have to drive 2 hours to go see a prospect, drive back.
Yeah.
Now everything's virtual. Our meetings that we do are about 20 minutes. Well, what are they going to do the rest of their time?
Yeah.
They're prospecting, right? So as coaches, that's our job, to find areas to help them, utilize their time in a better way. So that's why everything we do now is virtual, even the returning the reports and whatnot. Everything we do at Kroon is virtual.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Listen, Audrey, unfortunately, we are dwindling out of time. This was a great conversation, a very high level, sales conversation. We got to touch on some technicalities, some safety, and it was an overall extremely educational, podcast episode, and I'm really happy that you took the time to come out and speak with me.
My pleasure, Stephen.
And for anybody that's listening, as I mentioned, Audrey is from the Canada area, and not only does that show how leveled, our franchise is, but, it just shows our strengths of being an international franchise and having such close relationships with everybody that's a part of the Tech Network. So, again, thank you very much for coming out today. And
My
talking
pleasure.
with us.
Awesome.
And for everybody that listened, again, thank you for watching another episode of the Beyond the Blueprint podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Marcelino, Vice President of Sales with Lowther Electric. Have a great day.